that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
The analysis you're about to see is based entirely on data taken directly from every episode and season of the Pit Stop that exists. Earlier this year, I made a video that covered fun facts about the Pit Stop, such as who was the most successful host, what episodes were the most viral, etc. Since then, we've had 2 full seasons of the Pit Stop, with season 17 and All Stars 10. Only something strange happened, which is that for some reason, this year did not have the same feel as it did previous years, with many fans pointing out that even viewership-wise, people weren't tuning in as much as they did even just a year ago. So I decided now that the 2 newest Pit Stop seasons have had a couple months to settle, I've gone in and updated all the data. This is honestly my favorite new genre of videos to make, so it was a lot of fun putting this together. But before we start, this video is sponsored by ZocDoc. Let's be real, the wellness world is exhausting right now. Everyone's doing 20-step skincare, drinking oceans of water, and meal prepping salad with more rules than an all-star season. But the one thing that actually matters is seeing a real doctor. That's why this video is sponsored by ZocDoc, that makes it quick and easy. Think about the appointment you've been avoiding, the overdue checkup, the dermatologist visit for that mole, or the dentist cleaning you keep pushing. This is your sign to just book it. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and instantly book an appointment. There are over 100,000 doctors across every specialty: mental health, dental, primary care, urgent care, filtered by insurance, location, availability, languages, whatever you need. See real appointment times, pick one, and book instantly. Most visits happen within 24 to 72 hours and sometimes in the same day. I use this and you should too. Stop putting off those appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/GreenGay to instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/GreenGay and support the channel in the process. Now let's begin. When I made my other Pit Stop video earlier this year, I showcased the total number of views that each season got. Yet some of the comments suggested that I not just include the total number of views of the whole season, but also use that metric to find out what the viewership average per episode is for each season, so that it offers even more of a perspective and it's a lot easier for the data to be compared, which is a great idea, and if anything, opened my eyes up even more. When we look at the Pit Stop, it's astonishing to see how far it's come. Season 8 was the first edition. Episodes averaged 170,000 views, with a total season reach around 1.7 million. But that's 2016 YouTube, a different era. No official set, no RuPaul budget, and hosted by Kingsley. By season 10 and All Stars 4, something changed. Viewership cracked the million per episode barrier, and the Pit Stop became part of the Drag Race ritual. All Stars 4 had about 11.7 million total views, averaging 1.17 million per episode. That's probably the moment that it went from being an underground after show to an ingrained part of the fanbase's culture with the franchise. Then came the golden spike. Season 13 has a total 34.5 million views, with an average of 2,300,000 views per episode. It's the most watched era ever to this day. That's nearly 15 times the audience of season 8. It wasn't just a bigger fandom, it was also the format maturing. Better production, hosts with chemistry, viral guests, and longer episodes of 30 to 40 minutes compared to the original 5 to 6 minute long recaps. What this data leaves behind is a story showing the evolution of how Drag Race became a cultural event that transcended into the online world. It's significant because while there is a good percentage of the fanbase that tunes into each queen's YouTube channels, the Pit Stop rakes in millions of viewers, highlighting that when it comes to tuning into the official after show, it attracts not just the fans of Drag Race, but also the casual viewers that aren't necessarily aware of everything that happens online. But they see the Pit Stop as a fun way of discussing the newest episodes they just watched with familiar faces, whether that's a lovable host or a high energy guest. The only issue is that this year, viewership wise, things have gotten rocky. Let's start with season 16 and All Stars 9. both hosted by Trixie Mattel. Her episodes averaged between 1.4 and 1.5 million views, with several crossing the 2 million mark. Her biggest hits included episodes with Violet Chachki, Brittany Broski, each pulling over 2 million views. Even her quote weaker episodes rarely dipped below 1 million. Now fast forward to Monet Exchange's run, with season 17 and All Stars 10. It's here that the average dropped to under 1 million, with All Stars 10 averaging just 780,000 views per episode. That's about a 45% drop since last year. The highest episode under Monet barely hit 1.3 million views, and several fell into the 600 to 800,000 view range. So yes, there's a clear decline. But why? Some of you might argue that it's unfair to compare this year's data to previous ones because it had less time to boil up more views. Yet, I beg to differ, because for the most part, while yes, 2024 pit stop seasons have had an extra year to grow in views, the 2025 ones aired in the first half of the year, and it's fair to say now that it's been a couple months, it's slowed down enough to give us a good idea of where it stands. And given that we've seen a 45% drop, it's a big enough difference to say that this is in fact a cause for concern. There are a few reasons why this could be happening. First is the host effect. Trixie Mattel isn't just a Drag Race alumni, she's a YouTube powerhouse with a massive crossover audience. Like, you could be an unknown channel, but if you manage to interview her, you'll most likely experience your first viral video and reach an audience that actively looks for anything that involves her. It's not just that though. Whenever she's hosting the pit stop, it always feels like we're getting so many viral moments that ends up being reused all the time in the year that follows. Meanwhile, Monet Exchange is an excellent queen, but her style is different. She's more conversational, more laid back. More importantly though, one of the more talked about reasons for Monet falling out of being a fan favorite when it came to hosting the pit stop was the fact that it did not come across as genuine at all. Not only was Monet giving her thoughts of the episodes on the pit stop, but at the same time this was happening, she went on her podcast with Bob the Drag Queen to do their own review of the episodes, which were a lot more unfiltered. The only thing is that oftentimes Monet would say she liked something while on the pit stop, but then have a complete opposite opinion when doing her podcast. Most likely due to the fact that the pit stop is watched by a much wider portion of the regular RuPaul's Drag Race fan base. So sometimes saying something too controversial can get you into drama. That being said, there was a clear disconnect between the Monet that we got on the pit stop and the Monet that would talk on her podcast a couple days afterwards, resulting in the Monet we got on the pit stop a lot more cookie cutter by comparison. Regardless, if we look at the numbers from the past 4 years of the pit stop, there's a clear story forming, a slow decline followed by a total collapse. In 2022, the pit stop was thriving. Season 14, hosted by Monet Exchange, pulled in a total of 25.4 million views, averaging around 1.69 million views per episode. That same year, Bob the Drag Queen took over for All Stars 7 All Winners, which turned out to be one of the biggest seasons in Drag Race history. Bob's episode hit an impressive 1.86 million average per episode, totaling in 22.4 million views across the whole season. There was no denying that the pit stop had become a full-on cultural ritual. If you watched Drag Race, then you had to watch the pit stop. By 2023, Bianca Del Rio stepped in to host for season 15 and All Stars 8, and the numbers stayed solid. Season 15 hit 26.4 million total views, the second highest total in this entire database, and averaged 1.6 million views per episode. What this set of data proves is that it's clear at this point that fans don't mind a change in tone, and that for the most part, viewership wasn't changing across each of the editions. Then in 2024, Trixie Mattel took over for season 16 and All Stars 9. Her run didn't hit the same high as Bianca or Bob's, but it was steady, earning 21.8 million total views for season 16 and 17.4 million for All Stars 9. On average, Trixie's pit stop episodes pulled about 1.45 million views each. That is slightly lower, sure, but it's still very respectable. Trixie's energy was bubbly and campy, and there was a lot of rewatch value to each of the uploads. At this point, the pit stop was still healthy, and then came 2025. Season 17 dropped to 14.2 million total views, averaging just under 950,000 views per episode, and All Stars 10 did even worse, a 9.26 million total, with an average of 770,000 per episode. That's a massive 45% drop in total viewership compared to the previous year. And also, the first time since season 11 that the average fell below 1 million views per episode. We had the same format, same YouTube channel, same Drag Race fandom, but half the audience disappeared in 1 year. All that being said, now that season 17 and All Stars 10 are finally added into the spreadsheet, I wanted to update a few things from my last pit stop video. Specifically the host ranking, the reoccurring guest ranking, and some of the bigger patterns that only become obvious once you zoom out and compare every single season at once. So let's get straight into it. First, the host. When we plugged the new 2025 data, something really noticeable happens. Monet Exchange jumps from 5th place all the way to the second host with the most amount of episodes hosted, now having a total of 42 episodes under her belt, being ahead of Bob the Drag Queen, who's in 3rd place by 7 episodes. But Trixie is still at the top with a landslide 73 episodes hosted. On the other hand, now we also have an updated guest total. Here's what changed. In the old ranking, the top of the list was dominated by 4 queens. Laganja with 9 appearances, and then Delta Work, Katya, and Manila Luzon tied at 7. But now with the new data, Laganja is still in the number 1 spot. That hasn't changed, but the second spot does. Katya moves from 7 appearances to 8, bumping her ahead of Manila and Delta Work, who remain tied at 7. So Katya now holds the title for the queen with the second most guest appearances on the pit stop, which puts her higher than she's ever been on this list. The next big change is Raja. She moves from 5 appearances up to 6. Which lifts her above that big cluster of 5 timers and gives her a standalone position just under Manila and Delta. So Raja quietly climbs into the upper list. Meanwhile, the entire block of queens that used to be tied at 5 appearances stays at 5 in the updated list. And now the 4-time appearance group grows. Before it was just Adore, Bianca, Bob, Ginger, Jada, and Peppermint, but in the updated data, we suddenly have Kimchi and Thorgy Thor joining that tier. Moving on, we now have an updated list of every pit stop episode with at least 2 million views. And a few interesting changes show when you compare the old spreadsheet to the new one. The first thing that stands out in this list is that the top of the list barely changes, but the middle of the list changes a lot. In both versions, the number 1 most watched pit stop episode ever is still season 13 episode 5, hosted by Trixie with guest Violet Chachki. That one remains untouchable. The next few entries also stay the same. Season 13 episode 6 featuring Trixie and Katya, All-Stars 6 episode 1 featuring Trixie and Bob, and All-Stars 7 episode 3 with Bob and Katya. So the top tier is locked in, because nothing new even comes close. Where things shift is right after that. Several episodes got updated view counts, and a few move higher. For example, season 13 episode 5 increases from 5.6 million to 5.8 million, and season 13 episode 16 goes from 5 million to 5.2 million. These bumps don't just change placement, but they also widen the gap between the biggest episodes and everything below them, reinforcing how massive that season's 13 surge really was. Overall, Trixie Mattel still dominates the most viewed list. Even with updated numbers, Trixie remains in the face of the show's biggest episodes. She hosted the number 1, number 2, and several of the top 10 episodes. Like, a huge portion of the 2 million and up entries feature her, and some of her episodes even increase in views. Another change to this list is that Monet Exchange rises, but only thanks to her older season. Even though her new season didn't perform well overall, her season 14 episodes show up multiple times in the updated list, but none of them are from recent additions. Bob the Drag Queen climbs too. Bob already appeared several times in the old list, but the updated version confirms how consistently he clears the 2 million mark. The biggest and most concerning pattern though is that no episodes from 2025 appear anywhere on the list. Neither season 17 nor All-Stars 10 make the 2 million cutoff. The entire list is only made up of episodes from season 13, 14, 15, 16, All-Stars 6, 7, 8, and 9. This is probably the most important takeaway, is that the pit stop hasn't produced a new breakout episode in over a year. All the viral hits still come from the 2020 to 2024 era, and nothing from 2025 even gets close. In other words, even after updating the data, the most viewed list barely moves at the top. Up next, we have the updated viewership totals and averages for every single pit stop season. The first thing you notice is that season 13 is still the undefeated champion of all time. Hosted by Trixie Mattel, it sits at 34.5 million total views with a 2.3 million average per episode. Nothing comes close, and this probably is the peak of the pit stop. And the updated numbers only prove that point even more. But what's interesting is what comes after season 13. When you look at season 14, 15, and 16, plus All-Stars 6, 7, 8, and 9, you get this really solid 4-year block where the pit stop was basically unstoppable. Everything in this era lands between 1.4 and 1.9 million views per episode, and totals range from 17 to 26 million views. It didn't matter who was hosting, Monet, Bianca, Bob, Trixie, they all managed to sit in the same strong range. This is, quote, the golden era of the pit stop, because after this, everything starts to fall off a cliff. Season 17 and All-Stars 10, both hosted by Monet, are where we see the first true collapse in the show's entire history. Season 17 averages 948,000 views per episode, and All-Stars 10 drops even lower to 777,000 views per episode. Not only is this the first time we've dipped under 1 million views in almost a decade, these averages are lower than some of the oldest pit stop seasons from way back when nobody even watched the show on YouTube yet. This is not a slow decline, it's a sudden crash. Everything before 2025 stays above a million. Older seasons like All-Stars 4, 5, and season 12 all fall into the 1.1 to 1.2 million range. That's what makes these new numbers so wild, and probably why I'm still so zoned in on it, because season 17 and All-Stars 10 don't just dip, they perform like pre-2019 pit stop seasons. Even though the Drag Race audience today is way bigger, that should not be happening. And looking at the host is where another pattern becomes even clearer. Trixie Mattel stands out immediately. Not only does she hold the highest rated season ever, but every modern season she's hosted lands in the 1.4 to 1.5 million range. Add in All-Star 6, her Canada season, and the fact that the most viewed pit stop episodes of all time are overwhelmingly hers, she genuinely has the most consistent track record of any host. Bob the Drag Queen stays extremely strong too. His averages never crash, even in his weaker seasons. Plus, Bianca stays right behind him, with season 15 having the second highest totals on the list. Monet's numbers tell a different story. Her season 14 run does great. Several of those episodes are in the 2 million plus club, but her newer seasons create the lowest average of the modern era. And when you place everything side by side, the gap between 2024 and 2025 becomes impossible to ignore. So after looking at all this data, the totals, the averages, the guest rankings, the most viewed episodes, the drop is real. This past year was the roughest year that the pit stop has had in a long time. No breakout episodes, no huge spikes, none of the usual momentum, but honestly, I don't think it's the end of the world. The pit stop has bounced back before, it's switched hosts, formats, tones, and every time it eventually finds its groove again. So although the numbers look rough, can be fixed. It just needs the right energy going into season 18. And that's where the big question comes in. And it's that, who do you think should be the next host? Should they go big and bring back someone like Trixie Mattel, who statistically is the strongest host the pit stop has ever had? Or do they call Bob the Drag Queen, who has never had a low performing season and always brings that mix of humor that honestly people love to tune in for? Or maybe this is the moment to throw a curveball and give it to someone totally new, like Mistress Isabel Brooks or Serena Chacha. Whatever they choose, season 18 has a chance to reset the vibe and win people back. The audience will come back if the show gives them a host that they're excited to watch. So now I want to know what you think. Who would you pick to be the next pit stop host? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to click the link in the description and head to ZocDoc.com/GreenGay and instantly book a top-rated doctor today and support the channel in the process. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Gay Uncle, Saritish, Las Potitas, Cool Gal Nan, Jet Sam Adams, and Natasha De Leon. And in the Gay Squad, we have Lone Resident, Christine Gregory. And in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch But a Geek, Jack Beck, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Scarlet Rose, Boiled Peanut, Not an Omelet But an Egg, Max Whale, Dea, and Niall O'Hearing. If you'd like to see your name on the screen, you can support me on Patreon. The link will be in the description.